He slid the papers across the table, smirking like he'd already won. "If you really love me, this won't matter," he said. That was the moment I knew. He wasn't marrying me. He was owning me. I was 29 years old, working hard as an architect. I didn't come from money, but I had big dreams and a strong work ethic. Then I met Jason Wyatt at a fancy corporate event. He was everything people imagine when they think of success. Tall, confident, rich, and charming. He was a billionaire tech founder, and from the moment we met, he gave me all his attention. At first, it felt like a fairy tale. He flew me to Italy on a private jet just for lunch. We sipped wine in Tuscany, danced under fairy lights, and he wrote me love notes like something out of a movie. He made me feel special, seen, and like I was the only woman in the world. Looking back, maybe it was all part of the plan. After just 6 months of dating, he got down on one knee and asked me to marry him. It felt fast, but I said yes. I thought it was love. I thought he was serious about building a life together. He talked about our future, children, and growing old together. I believed every word. But the night before our big engagement party, everything changed. We were having dinner when his lawyer showed up with a folder. Jason smiled and slid it across the table. "Just something quick to sign," he said. I opened it, and it was a prenup. The terms were brutal. If we ever divorced, I would get nothing. No money, no property, nothing at all. I looked at him in shock. He leaned back and said, "If you really love me, this won't matter. It's just business." My stomach turned. Something about the way he said it made my heart sink. It didn't sound like love. It sounded like a deal, a trap. I felt like I was being tested, like he wanted to see if I'd walk away. My gut was telling me to leave, but I was already in deep. I had left my job, moved into his home, met his family. The ring was already on my finger. I told myself maybe it was normal for rich people. Maybe I was overthinking, so I signed it. I smiled, nodded, and told him it was fine. But something in me cracked that night. A small voice inside whispered that I had just made a huge mistake. Still, I pushed that voice away. I told myself I could make this work. That love would be enough. I had no idea what I had really signed up for. After the wedding, everything felt like a dream at first. We were constantly in the spotlight, attending glamorous galas, walking red carpets, and getting mentioned in magazines as a power couple. Jason had bought us a beautiful mansion in Malibu, with a view that made you feel like you were living on top of the world. I thought I had stepped into a perfect life, but it didn't stay perfect for long. Slowly, the man I had married started to change. Or maybe he had always been this way, and he just stopped pretending. He no longer spoke to me with warmth or affection. The kindness he used to show in public faded behind closed doors. At first, I thought he was just stressed from work, but soon it became clear. I was no longer his partner. I was a decoration. He didn't care about my opinions anymore. When I shared ideas or talked about the projects I was working on as an architect, he would cut me off or roll his eyes. One day, I was featured in a well-known magazine for a project I had designed. I was excited and proud. I ran to show him the article, thinking maybe he'd be happy for me. He glanced at it and laughed. "They'll write about anyone these days," he said, tossing the magazine aside like it meant nothing. Shortly after, he moved my home office, the one space I had made my own, into the pool house. He claimed it was temporary, that the main house needed remodeling, but I knew better. "It's more your level," he added with a smirk. I stood there, silent, swallowing the hurt. Then came the rules. He started telling me what I could and couldn't wear to events. He said certain colors made me look too available, or too plain. He commented on my makeup, my shoes, even my voice. He told me which of my friends were a bad influence and that I needed to cut ties. He wanted me at home when he was home, no matter what I had planned. Eventually, he started traveling more, but he never told me where he was going or when he'd be back. His phone was always locked. I asked questions, but he brushed me off. I started to feel like a stranger in my own life. I suspected he was cheating, but I didn't have proof, just a growing sense of dread in my chest every time he left the house. And the worst part, I had nothing. The house was in his name. The car I drove, also his. I had no bank accounts, no credit cards of my own, and no income. I had walked willingly into this cage, thinking it was a palace. Now I was trapped and completely powerless. One night, while putting away laundry in Jason's closet, I found a phone I didn't recognize hidden inside his gym bag. It wasn't his usual phone. It was older, cheap, and clearly not meant to be seen. My hands shook as I unlocked it. What I found hit me like a wave. Dozens of messages from different women. Some texts were casual, others were disgusting. Photos, videos, names I didn't recognize. It wasn't just one affair. It was a pattern, a lifestyle. My heart broke right there on the closet floor. But more than anything, I felt anger. Deep, burning anger. I thought of everything I had given up. My career, my independence, my identity. He had taken everything from me, and now he was treating me like a fool. Then I remembered something my father once told me before he passed. Never fight a snake where it bites. Fight it where it feeds. That stuck in my mind like fire. I knew I couldn't just confront Jason. He'd twist it, gaslight me, maybe even find a way to punish me. I needed to be smart, quiet, strategic, so I began a silent war. By day, I was the perfect wife. I made him breakfast, smiled at his jokes, dressed up for events. I pretended I didn't know a thing. But at night, I researched his life, really researched it. I dug into his business filings, searched every public record, and traced the names of shell companies he had mentioned before. Some were in tax havens I'd never even heard of. I found lawsuits quietly settled, partnerships suddenly dissolved. I also hired someone, a private investigator named Sarah, who specialized in wealthy cheaters. She was sharp, discreet, and had helped women like me before. She started tracking his movements, collecting surveillance, and building a file. Every smile I gave him, every kiss on the cheek, was part of the mask I wore while I prepared my escape. I hid flash drives in makeup drawers, saved emails in secret folders. He thought I was clueless, trapped in his perfect world. But I was gathering every lie, every fraud, every betrayal, because when I struck, I wanted it to be final, quiet, and devastating. For the next 8 months, I lived 2 lives. By day, I played the role of the supportive wife, calm, beautiful, obedient. But in the shadows, I was building something that could set me free. I registered a dummy LLC under a name that couldn't be traced back to me. Through it, I launched a sustainable architecture and design firm, using all the skills and passion I had set aside during our marriage. It was mine, completely, but I kept it hidden, like a secret garden blooming underground. I started reaching out to people I had met during Jason's events. Old money, new tech, green investors. They remembered me. Some of them even admitted they found me sharper and more grounded than Jason. I never mentioned the mess I was living in. I just pitched my vision, quietly and professionally. One by one, the investors came on board. At the same time, I kept digging into Jason's business empire. With Sarah, the private investigator, I tracked down his financial records, backdoor deals, and internal emails. That's when we found something much bigger than cheating. He was embezzling money from his own shareholders, moving funds through fake consulting firms and routing them offshore. It was bold, reckless, and illegal. But he didn't try to hide it because he thought I was too dumb or too blind to ever notice. He was wrong. I installed a discreet screen recording program on the shared laptop he occasionally used when his office Wi-Fi was down. Through that, I caught him logging into encrypted accounts and shifting massive amounts of money through shell corporations. He made calls with his back turned to me, but he forgot I could hear, and I listened to everything, every code word, every transfer, every threat. In the background, Sarah kept gathering more dirt, hotel logs, credit card statements, secret apartment leases. She even found security footage of him yelling at and eventually physically grabbing a young intern who had once worked for his company. That girl had tried to come forward, but she disappeared after signing a suspicious NDA. We found her, and she agreed to give us a statement, anonymously, but powerful enough to make sure Jason couldn't silence her again. Every piece of evidence was dated, labeled, and stored in 3 locations: a flash drive in a safety deposit box, a secure cloud account under a fake name, and a private folder only Sarah and I could access. He still smiled at me across the dinner table, still kissed me before leaving for his business trips. He had no idea that every step he took, every lie he told, was being recorded. And soon, it would all crash down around him. The trap was set. All I had to do was wait. I knew timing would be everything. One wrong move, one early step, and he could slip away untouched. So I waited, watching, listening, planning. And then the perfect opportunity arrived. The night before his company's long-anticipated IPO launch. He had been bragging for weeks about how this deal would make him a billionaire several times over. Media buzz surrounded it. Investors were drooling. The market was watching. That morning, While he was busy rehearsing his big speech for the press, I put the final phase into motion. I sent out 2 anonymous dossiers. One went to the Securities and Exchange Commission, filled with evidence of embezzlement, fraud, and offshore laundering. Every screenshot, every bank transfer, every fake company was in there. The second dossier went to a well-known investigative journalist who had a reputation for exposing dirty tech moguls. Both packages were precise, detailed, and impossible to ignore. By mid-afternoon, news had already started to ripple through certain corners of the internet, but Jason didn't notice. He was too busy getting his suit tailored and rehearsing his victory speech. That evening, just as he poured himself a glass of whiskey to celebrate early, I walked into his office and calmly handed him divorce papers. He stared at them like I'd just handed him a napkin. "You really think this changes anything?" he said, laughing. "You signed a prenup. You walk away with nothing. I made sure of it." I smiled back, calm and steady. "You will too," I said. As if on cue, the front gate buzzed. Jason's assistant came running down the hall, her face pale. "There are agents here, FBI. They want to see you. Now." His smile disappeared. He looked at me, confused, then angry, then scared. I walked out of the room without another word. The next 48 hours unfolded like a perfect storm. The IPO was immediately frozen. Trading was suspended before it even began. Investors panicked. The story exploded online. Journalists dug deeper, and whistleblowers started speaking up. The footage of Jason yelling at and threatening the former intern made it onto national news. One by one, his corporate sponsors dropped him. Board members resigned. Shareholders filed lawsuits. His face was everywhere, not as a genius tech leader, but as a symbol of corruption, abuse, and arrogance. Behind the scenes, my legal team began dismantling the prenup. With evidence of illegal behavior and abuse, we had grounds to challenge everything. Civil suits were filed, assets frozen. His empire, the one he built on lies, power, and control, was crumbling. And me? I didn't run. I didn't hide. I watched it all happen, piece by piece, knowing that I had taken back what he tried to steal from me. My voice, my power, and my future. After the strike, the fallout came fast, and it was brutal. Jason's carefully crafted empire, the one he had built on charm, manipulation, and fear, began to unravel like a loose thread yanked at full force. Within days, he was under investigation for multiple crimes: fraud, insider trading, and sexual misconduct. The SEC launched a full-scale inquiry based on the evidence I had handed over. Federal agents seized hard drives from his office. His phone records, financial statements, and offshore transactions were all dragged into the light. Then the media got involved, and they were relentless. Stories broke across every major outlet. Interviews with former employees, partners, and women he had manipulated began to surface. Some were anonymous. Others were brave enough to show their faces. The same man who once posed on magazine covers as a visionary now had headlines calling him a predator, a con artist, a fraud. His own board turned on him. In an emergency meeting, they voted to remove him as CEO and cut all ties. Sponsors and tech investors dropped him like a sinking stone. The IPO was officially cancelled. His name became toxic, but he wasn't done fighting, not yet. His legal team tried to fall back on the prenup. They reminded the court that I had signed away my rights, that I was owed nothing, no matter how ugly the situation had become. They leaned hard on the contract, claiming the marriage was separate from his business. But I had more than broken promises. I had proof. I had documented his illegal activities, abusive behavior, and clear violations of the marital contract. The prenup was only valid under good faith, and Jason had destroyed that the moment he started committing crimes and cheating with half the city. My lawyer was brilliant. Instead of going after a traditional divorce settlement, she filed tort claims, civil lawsuits, seeking damages outside the boundaries of the prenup, emotional distress, financial coercion, and willful misconduct. She attacked from angles he never saw coming. The court responded quickly. They froze Jason's personal and corporate accounts. His assets, including multiple luxury properties, a yacht, and even the Malibu mansion, were seized for investigation. His travel was restricted. His lawyers tried to negotiate, but there was nothing left to offer that I didn't already have. The man who once laughed in my face and told me I'd leave with nothing was now watching everything he owned slip through his fingers. He lost his company, he lost his reputation, he lost his freedom, and every time his face appeared on a screen, no longer as a tech genius, but as a disgraced criminal. I didn't feel joy. I felt justice. Cold, clear justice. He built his kingdom on lies. I simply turned the lights on. The startup I built in silence, the one he mocked without ever asking a single question, became the turning point. It was more than just a business. It was a quiet rebellion, a space I carved out in secret while he thought I was wasting my time. He never saw it coming. 6 months after his empire collapsed, I received an unexpected offer. A private investor wanted to buy the company. The number on the contract, $40 million. But what made it sweeter was who the investor turned out to be. A woman whose daughter had once worked for Jason. He had discarded the girl without a second thought after she rejected him. Her mother had waited years for the right moment, and when she saw what I'd built, she didn't hesitate. Her message was simple. For all the women he tried to break, this is for us. With the buyout, I didn't just walk away wealthy. I walked away in control. I used the funds to buy a firm in my own name. I hired architects who'd been overlooked. Women, creatives, dreamers, the people Jason never took seriously. We didn't just design buildings, we reshaped city skylines. My name now hangs in lobbies, shines on office plaques, and lives on rooftops. The same hands he once told were meant for pouring drinks and smiling quietly now sign million-dollar contracts and design spaces that change lives. My work is respected, awarded, and built to last. Jason, on the other hand, lives in a small rental. Most of what he owned was taken. The government froze his accounts. His luxury cars, his penthouse, his yacht, gone. He's still tangled in legal battles, his name forever linked to fraud and disgrace. He's not feared or admired anymore. He's ignored. And me? I sleep without weight on my chest. Not because I tore anything down, but because I protected what he tried to take. My voice, my purpose, and my future. This was never about revenge. It was about refusing to disappear. I endured the lies, the control, the humiliation, but I didn't stay silent. I moved carefully, patiently. I watched the pieces fall until the moment came to rise. He thought he had all the power. He thought I was weak, forgettable, disposable. Now he's just a name in a headline, and I'm still building. I never cared about his money. Not really. What I wanted, what I needed, was my freedom, my voice, my power. He built his life around control, thinking if he stripped me of choices, I'd stay quiet forever. He thought I was easy to replace, easier to forget, but I watched. I learned, and I moved when the time was right. I didn't scream or burn it all down in rage. I built, piece by piece, until his empire collapsed under the weight of his own lies. I never had to raise my voice, break a single law, or become what he was. I kept my dignity, and in the end, he was left with nothing, not because I took it, but because he never truly built anything real to begin with. What I found was something far more valuable than any luxury car or mansion. Peace. The kind of peace that comes when you know you stood your ground and walked away with your soul intact. I built something that was mine, from the ground up, and no one can ever take that from me. So, to anyone who feels trapped, voiceless, or powerless, walking away with nothing doesn't mean you failed. Sometimes, it's the bravest thing you'll ever do. Sometimes, walking away is how everything truly begins. I didn't want revenge. I wanted myself back, and I got her.